was just watching Amanda Rico's video where she quite clearly and rightfully was saying that as Caribbean people, we don't need to justify and explain our culture to outsiders. This is in reference to the critique that we see come up all the time when it comes to the way that we dance at our cultural festivals like Carnival and Crossover, the costumes and the skimpiness. And I agree that we don't need to meet a standard of decency that's set by people outside of our culture. But within the culture, we need to be honest with ourselves. Like, come on. We always say, in defense of the critiques, this is our culture. And we're doing this in reference to our history when it comes to ancestral resistance. I think it does our ancestors a disservice to rope in all of the ways that we participate in this culture now in connection with that ancestral history. When we think about the normative carnival costumes now, which is a high price, mass-produced monokini with your pegs out.
Hey, Shalom, brother. Shalom. This is Brother Howard of GMS Toronto, coming back with another one. I'd like to start off by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. I've touched on this subject before. I saw this video and I said, you know what, I'm going to touch on it again because, our people won't get it, right? The majority of our people, who are the 2/3, they won't get it. But it's always good to do these videos because they're starting to look at these different festivals like it's our culture. This is not our culture. This is our rebellion, right? These are the practices that got us in the condition that we're in today, right? The different masquerades, the different juves, the different bacchanalian festivals, right? The different festivals that go back to the god of revelry, right? Which is Bacchus and his different counterparts, which is predicated on wine and drunkenness and orgies as well. Okay, so we're gonna play this video a little bit more, and you know me, I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna comment, and then throw in a mix of scripture just so we can put proper understanding onto what this young lady is saying.
How is that connected to our ancestral history and the dancing that we see? There's a difference between sensuality and dancing in a way that celebrates our bodily autonomy and the dance.
Hey, one thing that this lady doesn't understand is that the modern day Caribbean festivals, right, whether it be Juve or Bacchanal or Caravana or whatever the name is of that festival, right, in whatever part of the islands you're from, whether you're from Jamaica, Grenada, Toronto, New York, wherever you're from, and whatever festival that you participate in, this is the light version compared to what we had back in the day. When I say back in the day, I'm talking about in the time of the ancestors that she's talking about. Our quote-unquote ancestors, which, yes, they are our ancestors, right? The reason why I said quote-unquote, because she doesn't understand there's such thing as reincarnation, right? A lot of us are coming back into the flesh, and we are those same people coming back that used to practice those different forms of worship of the different deities, right? Whether it be Bacchus, whether it be Semiramis, right? Or whether it be Tammuz, whoever the god is, or whichever time that you were in, or whatever region that you were in, and the names of those gods changed, right?
I think that we see that is mainly the dancing that is critiqued online. When two people are simulating sex on the ground, and a man and a woman like cock up on the ground and he's dry humping, huh? How it,
And back in the day, that used to be real. Okay? If you go back to the Greeks, if you go back to the Romans, they weren't simulating that, they were actually doing that. You women, right? The most of you women that go to Caravana, you don't know what you're taking. You don't know what you're taking a part in. Okay, what you're taking a part in is an orgy, right? That's supposed to be based off of an orgy where you're actually really supposed to have sex, right? The dry humping is you practicing, right? You're practicing that culture, and it gets worse because even though we grew up, because I'm quote unquote Jamaican, right? Which would make me of the tribe of Benjamin. So I grew up going to these different Caribbean festivals or these different Caribbean parties where dry humping was normal, okay? But what we don't understand is that it gets worse. When you go to places like Caravana, it's not supposed to just be man on woman. It's supposed to be woman on woman, man on man, right? That's what an orgy is. And that's how sick and demonic it was back in the day. So when this woman is talking about, our ancestors never intended it to be. No, ma'am, we're not doing it nearly as bad as our ancestors. Our ancestors were sick and demonic and perverted. And guess what? Like I said, I say quote unquote ancestors because a lot of times it was us, right? It was us just reincarnated back in the flesh talking about our ancestors. Now, this is Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 8, and it reads, "Thou shalt not also go into the house of feasting," right? And one of those houses of feasting was these different festivals, to sit with them, to eat and to drink, right? Going into these different high holy days, right? Today, modernly, we call them, what's it called? Thanksgiving, right? You call it Halloween, you call it Christmas, and so on and so forth, all right? Verse 9 reads, "For thus said the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will cause to cease out of this place in your eyes and in your days the voice of mirth," right? And even though this is talking about the prophets Jeremiah's days, well, guess what? It's twofold, okay? Because it's going to happen in this time as well. We're living in the time of Jeremiah again, so to speak, because we're in the time of Babylon the Great, okay? In the time of Babylon the Great, which is now, it's likened onto the time of Jeremiah, right? Because of what? Because of the wickedness. So it says, and in your days, the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, right? So marriage, okay? Marriage is going to cease, which marriages has already ceased. Most people are not getting married really and truly in this world. In this world, most people are what? Are hooking up. We're in a hookup culture, okay? Everybody has a phone, which means that most people have a dating app, right? Swipe right, swipe left. It's that simple. You can have somebody over your house in a couple hours, right? You can have somebody over your house in a couple hours. It is that simple. It is that easy, right? Pussy on demand. It says, verse 10, "And it shall come to pass when thou shalt show this people all these words, and they shall say unto thee, Wherefore hath the Lord pronounced all this great evil against us?" Is that not what they say? Right? I've been on the highways and the byways now for over 15 years. And best believe that's what the people of Israel say. Right? When you make these videos, that's what they ask. Oh, where did God say that? Oh, God never say that. I'm blessed. God bless me. All right, cool. Say no more. No problem. Cool. It says, or what is our iniquity? even though that's what we make videos on, right? We make videos on what? On Israel's iniquity, right? Show forth my people their sins, right? That's what we do. Because a lot of our people think that this is their culture. That's why videos like this are so important. I don't make videos for no reason. That's not the type of person that I am. Right? I don't just wake up and say, hey, I'm just going to make a video just because, right? I'm very intentional on what I choose to do. Okay? It says, or what is our iniquity? Or what is our sin that we have committed against the Lord, our power? And that's the reason why I'm so intentional about the videos that I make. And I want to make sure that all my videos are deeply and intensely researched, because at the end of the day, anybody that watches my videos cannot say that they weren't warned. They weren't warned of what the Lord said, which is Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, right? And I also go into the different practices and how it links up today and how it links up back in the day and why we practice it now in this day and age, right? Because I grew up and I tried to create understanding as well, because I grew up in those very same scenarios. It's not like I'm saying, oh, I've never celebrated Christmas. I've never took part in a Caribbean festival. Even though I never took part, I've went to these different, reggae parties. I went to Caravana and these different type of festival. Did I ever take? No, never. Put on a costume and do all of that type of shit. No, but guess what? It's still the same thing. Okay? This is verse 11. Then shalt thou say unto them, because your fathers have forsaken me. That's all that it is. Right? How do I know that? Let's go back to the video. Okay?
The revelry, the joy, the collective exuberance, the liberation.
Exactly what she just said. The liberation. Right? The liberation. Right? Who's the God of liberation? Right? Now this is from the Google, and it says the God of liberation, right? It's that simple. It's just a simple Google search. It goes deeper than this, right? But just a quick synopsis. It says Roman mythology, Saturn, okay? And a Roman god associated with liberation, wealth, and agriculture. It says Feronia, a Roman goddess who granted freedom to slaves. Liber, right? And Libera, also Roman deities associated with freedom and liberation. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Right? So that's what our people think that they were getting. They think that they were getting freedom because they associated themselves with being slaves. Okay? Like if you ever watch that TV show, Game of Thrones, that's what that the lady with the dragons, that's what she represented. She represented the goddess of liberation. She was given liberation to the slaves.
Liberation. That is drawing on the tradition that was set by them in their resistance and in their rebellion against the Lord.
That's exactly what it is. She says in their resistance and in their rebellion against a colonial system. No, the system that you were rebelling against was the Most High. That's what you were rebelling against. You weren't rebelling against the system of colonialism, because our people are still under colonial rule, but it's now ran by corporations, right? Your colonial masters, right? Which goes back to the England, right? When you go into the time of the English, when the English were ruling over the world, right? The majority of the world at that time, they got so rich that it became a rulership of corporations. Right now, we're ruled over by rich houses and rich families the same way, but they go under different names. Right? They go under their different corporation name. Right? The majority of the world doesn't really know the name of their rulers. Right? They don't know. Their rulers' names is hidden in under their corporations. Now this is Baruch, chapter 3, verse 8, and it reads, "Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reapproach and a curse," right? Because of the same festivals that she's talking about, right? That's one of the reasons, okay? And a curse, and to be subject to payments, okay? And we're subject to payments by who? By all these different corporations. We don't have a choice but to pay, right? They tax us. They tax us on our wages, when a man's wages is something that he earns, right? When taxes first came about, taxes came about because your country was going to go to war, right? And the people came together and pooled their money together so they wouldn't lose the war, right? That makes sense. But taxes was really and truly and still only for people that earn a profit. The majority of the people, right? Maybe 90% or more of the world, they earn wages. They don't earn a profit. That's your wage. That's all that it is. Corporations earn profits. And it's so funny because they pay the least amount of tax. That's how backwards this world is. Okay? That's how destroyed people are. People are so destroyed that they think that their taxes has anything to do with building roads, right? Building schools and all of that. That's not what your taxes are for. Your taxes, really and truly, are to pay back the international bankers the money that is usury, right? The money that the government issues to the citizens is money that they borrow from the international bankers, and it comes with a tax, right? In the Bible, it's known as usury, and that's what the government is paying off. They're paying off the debt, which they could never really and truly pay off, to be honest.
There's an issue of now we're not connected to our ancestors, and I think we need to run that. We cannot deny that with the commodification of carnival and the way that it's being packaged, particularly as a product for outsiders to participate in, and in the normative imagery that's shown on social media, that it is hypersexualized.
No, it's not hypersexualized at all. Because if you go back to the time of the Greeks, if you go back to the time of the Romans, it was worse, right? Really and truly, the closest thing that we have to that olden day a bacchanalian festival is the gay parade, which is why they added the gay float. Like, I live here in Toronto, and here in Toronto they have Caravana. And I remember a few years back they added the gay float, and all the Jamaicans and a lot of the different Caribbean islands, they were upset. Oh my gosh, no Batman thing. Yo, bonfire, this, that, and the third. But the reason why they were doing that is because they don't know the history of the bacchanalian ritual. That the bacchanalian ritual actually is a part of homosexuality. Okay? They actually don't understand that their gods, right, that they worship go both ways. Now, this is Bacchus. This is from Google. It says Bacchus, the Roman equivalent of the Greek god Dionysus, because it's the same thing. Okay, same thing, which is going back to who? Which is going back to Nimrod. It says was a deity of wine, revelry, and ecstasy, right? That's why you people, when you go to these different festivals, you're in what? You're in ecstasy, right? Look up that word. It says, and his sexuality was complex and fluid, right? That's why you hear those words today, gender fluid. Oh, I'm gender fluid. No, you're not. You're confused. You have demons on you. Okay? It says, complex and fluid, often associated with gender ambiguity. Right? Look that word up. Queerness. Okay? And even asexual aspects depending on the interpretation and context of the myth. Because that's really and truly all that this is. The majority of the stories that go back to the people that actually lived, which is Cush, Nimrod, Semiramis. Those are people that actually lived, and Ham, right? Their forefather Ham, that damn degenerate, because Ham, who was Noah's son, he was a damn degenerate, man. He was a damn low-life degenerate. I'm not even going to go into that right now, but those who know, they know. Okay? It says he was depicted in various forms, from a feminine youth to a masculine elder, and his worship in festivals known as bacchanal. Come on, man. Come on. This is what you so-called Caribbeans are celebrating. Yo, bonfire upon this and bonfire upon... No. This is the festivals, and these are the things that you're taking part in. You just don't know.
So the way that women's bodies are portrayed, like yes, nudity is not inherently sexual, but there is a hypersexualization in the way that we portray women's bodies. A lot of people don't even know about the history of Carnival.
You don't know the history of Carnival. And you women have sexualized yourself. Because if you left it up to men, when you go into history, men have always wanted women to what? To cover up. Okay? It just is what it is. Men have always wanted women to cover up. When you go into the liberation of women, right? That's when you started to take your clothes off. Right? Like when you go into the early 70s, which started the women's empowerment movement. What did you women do? You started to take your clothes off. The first thing that you discarded was your bra, right? You start walking outside, your nipples were showing. Okay? And then lately, you take your top off completely, because you said, most women say, oh, men can walk outside with their tops off. Why can't women? Okay, so no, the sexualization of your bodies go back to yourselves. That's why you women wear the different, I don't even know what they're called. That shit that shapes your body. You put that tight shit on, puffs your breasts up, sinks in your waist. You women do that. You know exactly what you're doing. That's why you wear lipstick. That's what you guys do. Okay? That's not what men do. Right? That's why women wear pum pum printer. Right? Why is your pum pum printing? You guys do that for a reason. Okay? Come on now. Come on. Even when you have a long shirt, right? You'll lift the shirt up above the ass so the ass is showing. Right? The sexualization of women started with women. It doesn't start with men. When you give men power, men want their women to cover up. Just go through all the different cultures. When you go around the world and you look at different cultures, men want their women to cover up. The only culture that that doesn't really cover up their women are really these Hamitic nations, right? And you go back to these different Hamitic kingdoms, right? They were, like you'll see them now in the different jungles, right? The very tribal African tribes, they don't really wear clothes, right? But that goes for both men and women, right? It's not really a sexualization. They're just damn degenerates. That's it.
A lot of people don't even know about the history of Krakow. They don't know about the history of Jubei. They think that it's a place to come and jump down and have fun and party.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Going back to those different gods that I mentioned. That's exactly what it is. The god of wine, the god of revelry. That's exactly what it is. And to be honest, that's like I said, this new form of caravana and things like that is actually not as bad as it used to be. It used to be worse, man. So you really and truly don't know. You women, when you go to these things, you're really supposed to get juked down for real, for real. You people are just practicing that, right? Dry humping, they call it. Like that's what kids do. When we were kids, we used to dry hump, right? But you're really supposed to be humping or hunching. So this is back in Jeremiah, and this is Jeremiah 16 and 8. It says, "Thou shalt not also go into the house of feasting to sit with them, and to sit with them to eat and to drink," right? Because a lot of them are eating and drinking to their different gods and their different deities. Verse 9, "For thus said the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will cause to cease out of this place in your eyes and in your days the voice of mirth," right? To linking up with the daughters of music shall be brought low, right? There's going to come a day, right? When you read Ecclesiastes 12 and 1, right? The doors are going to be shut in the streets. Right? You remember how the time of the C-19 was? And the time of the C-19, yo, shit was bad, man. People were actually losing it. People were losing it, man. People were actually losing it. It was actually really bad. Right? So it says, "And in your days, the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride." Okay? You know, you're not going to hear no wedding bells. You're not going to hear that shit, man. It's going to be bad out here, man. Right? That's why it says, the scripture says, 7 women shall take hold of one man in that day. Right? Now, in today's day, women can talk about men ain't shit. You know, I don't need no man. I could do bad by myself. Right? It's easy to say those things now because women are actually in power in this society, right? Which is a prophecy. Right? The scriptures prophesied that woman would rule over a man. Okay? So verse 10, "And it shall come to pass when thou shalt shew this people all these words," right? This prophecy. Okay? "All these words, and they shall say unto thee, Wherefore hath the Lord pronounced all this great evil against us? Or what is our iniquity? Or what is our sin that we have committed against the Lord our power," right? Which is why we do these videos, so they have no cloak for their sins. "Then shalt thou say unto them, Because your fathers have forsaken me," right? Going into, oh, our ancestors. No. Listen, your fathers have forsaken the Most High, right? Our people are going into our ancestors like our ancestors were some righteous people. Our ancestors were not righteous. Our ancestors were wicked. And when I say ancestors, quote unquote, because sometimes that's you coming back in the flesh. Okay? That's you coming back in the flesh. That's all that it is. You people keep screaming, "Oh, my ancestors, my ancestors." Don't you know the Bible talks about reincarnation? Right? That's why you're being punished. You're being punished for your sins. Okay? You are being punished for your own sins. All right? It says, "Because your fathers have forsaken me, said the Lord, and have walked after other gods." Okay? Bacchanal. and then they're wearing the horns on their heads. They're dressed in the black paint. Okay? You people don't even know what that's for. Okay? You're wearing those different costumes. You don't even know what that's for. Okay? And have served them, right? That's you serving them. Right? When you're putting on those horns and doing the different this and different that, right? That's you serving them. You might not think you are, but you are. You might not think you are, but you are. Right? And when it's the day of judgment, when it's the time to be judged, what are you people going to say? Oh, I didn't know. That's why these videos are being done. Right? And even though the purple gang, right, which I don't agree with, they what's it called? They'll go to Caravana, right, in their purple, while those people are taking part in their revelry and try to preach. How could you preach when that music is so loud? Nobody's hearing you. Nobody's hearing you, bro. But guess what? You people that are there, that are taking part in certain practices, guess what? That's going to be a part of your judgment as well. Because you people can't say, oh, no, I never knew. Oh, I never heard of the Israelites before. No, that's going to be a lie. That is going to be a lie. Okay? It says, and have worshipped them and have forsaken me and have not kept my laws. All right? And that's really and truly what it comes down to. Right? Our people are not keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. Okay? And because you're not keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, well, guess what? We're being destroyed. We're being destroyed. Okay? We're in the condition that we're in today because of our wickedness and because of our sins. All right? So this woman is worrying about women being joked down and how our culture is being portrayed. Ma'am, the least of your worries is how you're being portrayed. That's the least of your worries. Because the only time you can really and truly change the perception of yourself is to start loving yourself and loving your brother, loving your sister. And that will never happen in this society. Because you people, you hate yourselves, right? The black man hates himself and the black woman hates herself. Okay?
I also think that when we portray our festivals and our culture in a certain way, and that's what outsiders see.
You people don't have a culture. That's not a culture. All right? Carnival is not a culture. That's not what it is. Okay? Your culture has been broken. Your culture has been destroyed. You don't even know who you are. All right? Cultures have a dress code. If Carnival was a part of your culture, then the costumes of Carnival would be worn daily. Daily. Every single day. Right? You don't even speak a proper language. You speak a broken language. We all do. Right? That's why in Jamaica you have the patois, or you have the Creole, or you have the this. You guys don't have a language. You have broken languages of another language. Okay? You don't have an official language that you can say that is ours. You don't have that.
That we should blame them for having this perception of what our culture is.
Right? But yeah, I just wanted to do a quick lesson on that. And with that, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors unto the elders and elder apostles of GMS that rule well and that teach well. And to the brothers on the four corners of the earth doing this work in truth and in sincerity. Hey, shalom. Till next time, Kwam Yasharala. And abad babal to this wicked, sinful kingdom.